Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and we're finally back with the show, part 1, Inferno. What? It's been 12 days since we uploaded the last video on this? What? I said I would upload a video this morning, and it's now pretty much this night? Oh, wow, that's crazy because, anyways. So, if you guys remember, last episode, we were left off with a very difficult decision. And that was, do we sleep with Toko or do we not sleep with Toko? So, I've mulled over this a little bit. I still haven't quite come to a firm decision. But because of that, I'm going to go with what my gut tells me, which is to sleep with Toko. Purely because I think we're going to get a lot more. I think it's going to be a lot more interesting than be like, nah, Toko. Nah, I'm not going to sleep with you, Toko. So, and mind you, I'm pretty sure this is like right after we had a whole lot of reminiscing about our dead wife. So, oh yeah, let me reminisce about my dead wife who was brutally fucking dismembered while pregnant. Let me go fuck a high schooler. That's the character we're going with right now. Right? So, without further ado, let's just do it. And of course, we can always come back. Like, this isn't like, I have no idea what this fucking leads to, but I think with where the game is I don't know. We'll see. I'm not even going to bother. I kissed Toko. Toko's eyes widened in surprise for a moment, but she quickly relaxed and let me take the lead. So, future me, have fun probably censoring a lot of stuff that's about to happen. I'm sure glad I'm not doing that. I get to play the game and enjoy it. You have to sit there and edit it. Nice. Neither of us went further than that. We simply pressed against each other's lips, not budging an inch. Time quietly flowed by as if we were frozen in that moment. Toko looked up at me with bleary eyes after we broke off the kiss.
溺れはしないさ。弱虫だからこそ二人でいるべきだろう。
二人でいれば離れた時もっと弱虫になってしまうよ。
Now it was Toko's turn to kiss me. We pecked at each other's lips a bit too roughly. I caressed her cheek.
くすぐったいよ、時坂さん。
She smiled as she lowered her head. They do not hold back on the voice acting, I will tell you that. Kissing, moaning, slurping, whatever it may be, they do it all. Toko timidly stuck her tongue into my mouth and licked my teeth.
時坂さん、タバコの匂いがすごいよ。
じゃあやめようか。
嫌じゃないよ。時坂さんの匂い。
My hand slowly made its way down her cheek to her breast.
スケベだね、先生。
今は先生と呼ばれたくないな。
わざとだよ。
Toko gave herself up to the motions of my hand.
ねえ、時坂さん。私。
I'd also like to preface, this is definitely a doomed relationship. There is no universe, I feel like, where this relationship ends well, just with the context of all that's happening. She kept rubbing her thighs together over and over
ここ
again.
がどうかしたのかい。
I reached down for her thigh.
意地悪だね、もう。
Toko rolled up the hem of her
売
skirt.
れているのかい。
わからないよ。
Someone sounded rather miffed.
ね、時坂さん。
Toko urged me onward. I gave in to her temptation and raced my hand up her skirt. Her legs momentarily twitched.
時坂さんの手、冷たいよ。
瞳子の体が熱くなっているだけだろ
そうなのかな。
I thoroughly caressed her calves.
そんないやらしい手つきで触るからだよ。
俺が悪いのかい？
あ、そうだよ。私は悪くなんか。
Toko shrieked shrilly and tried to close her legs when I rubbed her crotch.
ほら、時坂さんが触るから。
悪い悪い。
I smiled drolly before stroking her crotch slowly and gently.
それでもいやらしいよ。
じゃあやめようか。
うん、もっと僕も時坂さんに触ってほしいな。
Toko slightly widened her legs. I could clearly see her creamy white panties. A stain was deepening around their core.
あまり見ないでほしいな。
わかったよ。
I nodded and touched her pussy through her panties. The soft sensation of her flesh was evident on my fingers. She really was wet, just as I suspected. Toko moaned and furrowed her brow when I lightly dug my finger into her pussy. She bit her lip and tried to stifle her grunts as though she'd realized she was being loud.
我慢せずともいいだろ
だって誰かが来たら。
Toko nervously looked around.
う。この辺りは奥まっていてめったに人は通らないんだよ。
本当に。
そうでもなければ俺だってこんなことはしていないさ。
Yeah, sure, Reggie. I reassured her, sticking my fingers into her panties.
ずいぶんと濡れているんだな。
だって仕方ないじゃないか。
Toko blushed.
なあ、どこ？
いいよ。時坂さんも苦しそうだから。
She glanced at my crotch.
あのさ、私。
Toko rolled down her panties, trying to keep her voice from shaking all the while.
優しくするから心配はいらないよ。
ありがとう。
I hugged Toko from behind to assuage her fears before slowly pressing my tip against her soaked pussy lips. In public? That's crazy. I could hear my manhood burrowing its way inside her. Toko threw her head back once my tip had dug its way through her entrance. Damn.
痛むかい？
I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart struck with concern.
こんなに痛いんだね。
ゆっくりと行こう。いいね。
その方が良さそうだね。
I pulled my cock out for the time being and played with her pussy with my finger instead. Toko started panting like mad. I used my free hand to cup her breast and slowly grope it. Toko glanced back at me after I'd done some foreplay, her eyes welling with tears.
ねえ、時坂さん、私、もういいから、お願い。
大丈夫か？
我慢できるから、入れて。
She thrust out her hips as if to emphasize the point.
よし。
I repositioned my tip against Toko's entrance, holding her tight. Toko screamed. I ripped apart her hymen until my cock was completely sheathed in her pussy. Toko gritted her teeth, desperately fighting the pain. Her pussy was clenched so tight that it actually hurt.
どこ力抜けるか
Yet despite everything, I somehow managed to bury my manhood to the hilt.
入ったのかな。
入ったよ
I wiped the tears off Toko's face.
すごい。私の中に時坂さんのがいっぱいになってる。
There was a hint of bliss in her
いいかの
voice.
か
少しね。でも我慢できない痛さじゃないから動いても問題ないよ。
そう言われてもな
I looked at her crotch to find the shattered proof of her virginity mixing with her nectar.
でも動いた方が男の人は気持ちいいのでしょ。
まあそうなんだよねそれで瞳子が痛がっていては本末転倒だろう
私だって痛いよりは気持ちいい方がいいよ。動いた方が気持ちよくなれるでしょ。
じゃあ体勢を変えるか
I figured it'd be really rough on Toko if we stayed like this. Toko moaned from atop me.
辛いか
奥まで来るからでも少しだけ楽かも。
She nodded, pressing her weight against me.
好きなように動いていいからな
I softly caressed her. Her skin was so supple and springy that it threatened to suck my hands in. Toko slowly but surely began swinging her hips. Her tight pussy gradually rocked my dick.
おいあまり動くと
だって止まってられない。
Our genitals squelched against each other every single time Toko lifted her hips. Sorry. Over time, Toko grew faster and bolder with her motion.
どこそう動かれると
Her narrow pussy walls were giving my manhood a comfortable massage, making it feel all warm and tingly.
だって止まらない。
Toko flopped up and down. Toko's pussy squeezed my cock like a vice while she screamed her head off. I let go, planting loads of my deep seed inside her. My seed deep inside her. Toko's legs twitched like mad as she slumped on top of me.
大丈夫か
すごいね。
She slinked her arm down and touched my shrinking manhood.
あ、ベトベトしてる。
そりゃ今まで瞳子の中に入っていたからな
入るものなんだね。
風邪をひくといけないから服を着ないと
あ、待って、拭かないと。
Toko crouched down in front of me.
瞳子
きれいにしないといけないだろ。
いやだからって そこまでしなくともいいんだぞ。
私がしてあげたくなったんだよ。
Toko licked my glands after declaring that. She carefully licked off every last drop of juice on my cock. Blood gradually started rushing to my manhood. Toko wrapped her whole mouth around my glands. Toko began slowly rocking her head back and forth. She was licking the surface of my glands. Excuse me.
いいよ。このまま出しても。
And with that, she started slurping my cock like a ravenous animal. Toko grilled my balls.
Toko!
That was all I could bear. I came right into Toko's mouth.
Toko... 飲んだのか。
あまり美味しいものじゃないね。
She said that, but her face was flushed and she looked spellbound. It honestly almost seemed like she'd gone mad with lust.
余計なことしちゃったかな。
Toko buttoned up her uniform and got to her feet.
そんなことはないよ。ありがとう。
I wiped off the saliva around her mouth.
時坂さん。
なんだい？
あのさ、はしたない女だとか思った？
そんなことは思っちゃいないよ。
I gave Toko a small peck on the lips.
さて、あまり遅くならないうちに帰ろう。送っていくよ。
And with those words, I offered my hand to Toko.
うん。帰ろうか。
God, wait till we tell Yukari. I just like to imagine, like, when things like this happen in like stories and shit, I always like to imagine, right? Like, later on down the line, let's say the relationship really works out, and then, you know, it gets to a point where it's like, all right, we have to tell my sister, right? Like, how are you gonna break that kind of, like, oh hey, by the way, Yukari, I've actually been, you know, secretly banging your classmate behind your back for all these years. And he's like, wait, you mean when she was in high school? Oh, yeah. You know, when I was infiltrating the school as a teacher, I, you know, got with one of the students, took her virginity. And then it's like, you know, if that kind of shit got out, bro, your career is over. You were donezo, buddy. Although, I don't know how accurate this is, but I do feel like a lot of animes that I've watched that take place in this kind of time, you know, post-war kind of dealio, you know, like Meiji Restoration, that kind of shit, you know. God, I really hope that I got that right, but I'm pretty sure. Anyways, and I'm talking like, you know, post-World War I, post-World War II kind of deal. But anyways, yeah, no, it feels like these kinds of stories where, you know, student falls in love with teacher, then they elope. It seems like that's kind of pretty common. I don't know if that's just like another one of Japan's like fetish things, or if that's like legitimately something that commonly happened. I would actually kind of be interested in learning the history of that. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. I took the train back to my office in Shinjuku after dropping off Toko. We mustn't indulge in love, huh? She was right. I didn't have time for that. Not when I still had so much left to consider. I opened the envelope that was in my mailbox. Though it bore no stamp, I could tell it was from Natsume. Not that she would have ever come all the way out to Shinjuku to deliver it, of course. She must have sent her sister or someone else to do her dirty work. In any case, the envelope contained a forensics report on that scrap of paper I found in Orihime's body. Apparently, the blood on it was a perfect match for hers. Furthermore, there were 2 sets of fingerprints found on it. One belonged to an adult man, while the others was a woman. The latter had been identified as Orihime Tsukishima's. However, the origin of the male set remained a mystery. I stared at the scrap of paper enclosed in the envelope. Now, where have I seen this before? If it was from a book, then maybe it was that one. I flipped through my notebook. Okay, so we're looking for some kind of book. That shouldn't be too difficult. Probably the Egg of Nianus, right? I took out my copy of the Egg of Nianus. That's right. The scrap looks just like the flap of this book's dust jacket. Told you. It lined up precisely with the book's synopsis. But why had that scrap been on Orihime? The dust jacket of the copy in her room wasn't torn like that. Then, maybe it came from the culprits. If so, that meant the killer owned a torn copy of the novel. An adult man, huh? All of a sudden, the phone rang. Few people would call me at this hour, meaning it was probably...
もしもし。
おお、こっちにいやがったか。
Yep, Ozomi, I knew it.
てめえよ、キシンとゆかりさんには居場所ぐらい教えておいてやれよ。心配す
Sorry,
る
I was out banging Yukari's classmate.
ああ、すまないな。で、要件は？
被害者の家族に当たってみたんだがな。やっぱり全員例の方を持っていたようだぞ。
そうか。
Now I had a definitive link between the victims I'd been hunting for all these weeks. With that established, there was just one thing left to do.
魚住、いつでも警察を、いや、お前だけでも動けるようにしておいてくれ。
目星はついたのか？
ああ、明日までにはっきりさせる。
Well, that's a bold declaration. In other words, tonight would be the climax.
わかった。いつでも連絡をよこしてくれ。
Uzomi hung up. Alright, time to put on my thinking cap. Deduce the truth! Oh shit, brother! First of all, who is the victim in the initial incident? The dismembered corpse found in Inokashita Park. I flipped through my notebook. The initial victim? That was gonna be... Where is she? It was either, Haruka Imamura, I think, is who we're thinking of, right? But let's see. Initial victim. They're all alive. Tamaki, yada yada. This was at Shakuji Park. Is there a way to see what he was asking again? Because I completely fucking forgot. Anyways, I'm gonna say it's Yui, right? Oh wait, no, yeah, because there's Yui Nishizono and Haruka Imamura. I don't think we actually, we didn't get like concrete details on that. The body's fingerprints belong to Yui Nishizono. However, Natsume claimed the head was Haruka Imamura's. So in other words, I had to assume the body was a mishmash. The arms were Yui Nishizono's, while the head and legs were Haruka Imamura's. They were disposed of together to disguise the fact that there were two victims instead of just one. Furthermore, the victims had something else in common, and that was... they were not all students of Oba Girls Academy, actually, but they were all members of Schisma. That's right. They called themselves Schisma. Now, what is Schisma? A prostitution ring or a crime syndicate? It's kind of a... Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of a gray area because they said that Schisma did shit, they like sold drugs and all this delinquent shit, but they also did prostitute their members. So technically it's a crime syndicate. A crime syndicate composed of students. And who is their leader? Well, if I had to say, well, I think we all know that. It was Orihime. Right. Orihime Tsukishima. There was even testimony backing that up. What's more, the corpses of the Schisma members all had something in common. Well, several things, but the main one was... their corpses, they're all dismembered in grotesque ways. Oh, okay, we're talking about the corpses specifically. The corpses well, the Egg of Nianus, they're all dismembered in grotesque ways. Well, they were definitely all dismembered in grotesque ways, but I think there's a more specific connection we're trying to make here, so I'm gonna kind of rule that out. I mean, this is kind of a hard say, because technically the Egg of Nianus is inspired by the Divine Comedy, right? But I think in this case scenario, we are specifically referring to the Egg of Nianus, right? God fucking save me. Right. The corpses all alluded to the punishments in Shin Katsuragi's The Egg of Nianus. Though said punishments were nearly identical to those in the Divine Comedy, the broken black eggs marked a definitive difference. Now, time for the biggest question. Who's the culprit behind these murders? I have a pretty good idea by now. No, I don't! I have no fucking clue! Okay. Alright. Let's go through this. It's obviously not Kyoko. Yukari, it's obviously not Yukari. Toko, probably not. Obviously not Hasame, not Uzomi. Probably not Saeki. Yui Nishizono, Haruki Imamura. I think, if we have, like, a prime suspect, probably Tatsuhiko Kusuka. Because she's Yui Nishizono's older brother. And then, you know, he's been prescribed these medications that he then stopped taking. You know, so we basically have this unmedicated guy running around. He would have direct knowledge of the students involved in this because he's a teacher at the school where majority of these victims are coming from. I mean, he's kind of the perfect guy. So, but let's just take a second. This guy's just an asshole. Shin Katsuragi, I don't think. Yeah, but he also receives therapy. Yeah, but I just don't think it's him. Because, like, he knew Yui. And he formed some kind of relationship with her. But I think the person who really has the most going for him in terms of the suspect department is easily Tatsuhiko. God save the queen! Tatsuhiko Kusuka. Dr. Saito said he was Yui Nishizono's brother. That meant Kusuka had strong ties to her. I'm assuming from what you guys have been telling me that it's very possible that all this shit is like, you know, depending on what you pick, you very well could pick the wrong thing and get fucked over. So I guess we'll find out. Anyways, and yet he didn't seem all that shaken up by her disappearance. Sure, I hadn't met him until almost 2 months after the fact, but still, it's just way too unnatural, at least to me. None of the people I investigated, much less Obergirls Academy staff, knew he was Nishizono's brother. Wouldn't that normally have been something he'd reveal right away? Wouldn't most people have begged me to find their sister? I knew I would have if I were in his shoes, yet he did none of that. Meaning, maybe he knew where she was, dead or alive. He was indeed the most suspicious when taking all that into account. However, his connection to the other victims was tenuous at best. He was simply a teacher to some of them. Did I have anything that could implicate him? There was something... there's something specific. We'll find out. Okay, let's look through this. No. I don't really think any of this is super important. Best sight on the ground, on fire, eyewitness testimony. Psyche's job request. I mean, she was the first one to disappear. Corpse. A match with the cells taken from you. She's on this letter. Estimated time of death. Black egg. Black cloth. Takeshito Detective Agency. Rokushi case. Older Girls Academy. Rise in pregnancies. Well, that's it, right? Rise in pregnancies among students via prostitution or rape. I mean, that would make the most sense to me. That's kind of how I connected into this, because it's like, who knows what the fuck this guy's thinking? He's literally off his meds. Let's keep looking. No, I really might have screwed myself on this. Old man walking out in the morning. No blood smatter was found. Poem scrap. Resembles to find Tommy's Inferno and matched to her handwriting. A similar poem with morning in his mouth. Maybe it's this, right? IDs in Takagawa. Prescription. Opus. Toko was drawn to it. Schisma. Adult male's fingerprints were discovered on it. Yeah, I don't think that pertains to this, but that's pretty strong. They had this book. So I'm tempted to say it was the poem scrap, because we've found this poem scrap in a couple people's mouths now. I think I'm gonna go with this. I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly confident. No, this won't suffice. Okay, well, I fucked all that up now, didn't I? Suddenly, the phone rang. It can't be Uzomi, can it?
もしもし。
おレジ大変だ。今上野から知らせがあってな。高城の嫁さんがいなくなったって。
なんだって。
The news hit me like a bolt from the blue. My stomach flipped as the worst case scenario flashed through my mind. Did this happen because...
今からそっちに車を回す。急いで上野まで出てきてくれ。
おい。
I tried to stop him, but Uzomi hung up before I could say anything. I slammed down the receiver and raced out of my office. Did this happen because Kazuda's pregnant? I fucked that up, didn't I? Oh, I fucked that up badly. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. That's my bad.
幸せな時間。あなたのぬくもりが私をとろけさせる。どこにも居場所のなかった私が唯一安心できる場所。あなたの鼓動を感じる。できることならばこのままずっとあなたの腕に抱かれていたい。
Okay, fuck.
Takashiro!
By the time I raced over to Ueno and burst into Takeshiro's office, he was slumped over on his sofa.
おい、Takashiro!
Takeshiro looked up. He seemed so drained that it was hard to believe this was the same guy I'd been horsing around with not too long ago.
話を聞かせてくれ。
I sat across from Takeshiro.
あいつがカズナが帰ってこないんだ。代わりに夢受けにこれが。
He showed me a scrap of paper. For such defects and not for other guilt, Lost are we and are only so far punished that without hope we live on in desire. I recognize that handwriting by this point.
新曲の一節か。
It seemed the two cases really were linked, exactly as I'd feared. But how exactly did this all line up with the other victims?
カズナは今日病院に行って。
おい高城、まさかとは思うが、彼女の担当医、もしや六式誠じゃないだろうな。
Even I knew that didn't make a lick of sense. After all, everything that had transpired so far had nothing to do with him. So why? Why was this evoking such a fierce sense of deja vu?
いくら俺だってそこまで猛録しちゃいない。奴だったらすぐに気づいている。カズナの担当医は山之内先生。朽木病理学研究所の3階だ。
Why is she coming up now? Does this mean... No. Cool your head, Reggie. So what if she attended to Kazuna and most of the other girls? That doesn't automatically make her the culprit. Still...
レイジ、高城。
No fucking way. No way, right? No way, right? Oh, God. Okay. My train of thought was suspended by Uzomi's booming
何
howl.
か分かったのか。
ついさっき、高城和奈の居場所に関するタレコミが寄せられた。
なんだって。どこだ。
東伏見らしいが、高城、あんたは残ってくれ。
バカ言うなよ。俺が行かないで誰が。
俺とレイジで行く。あんたは待っていてくれ。
Uzomi talked like a teacher telling off a student.
そうだな。今のあんたは判断力を失っている。犯人を見つけたらただじゃ済まなそうだ。
おい、俺は。
いいから待ってろよ。
We couldn't let him tag along, even if it was his life at risk.
行くぞ、レイジ。
Alright. Uzomi and I left Takashido in his stupor and scrambled into a squad car parked in front of the agency. Oh, please let us get to her in time. I have a lot of things I want to say, but I am keeping them wrapped up. Because I will rant if I start talking now. I did not cut that short, but I'd like to let that be known. That was not me. Alright. Let's keep it going. I explained everything to Uzomi on the drive to Higashi Fushimi. The reddish-orange glow of Sunday morning crept over the horizon by the time we got there.
当たりだな。
Uzomi stubbed out a cigarette.
行くぞ。
This was probably where we'd find everything. Jesus. Kusaka Family Home Foyer. Rancid didn't even begin to describe the stench we'd encountered. The whole house was steeped in death.
こいつはひでえな。
Even Uzomi grimaced and covered his mouth. The place was dilapidated. Layers of dust caked the floors. Several adult-sized footprints, likely belonging to a single person, littered the ground here and there. I sure as hell wasn't crazy enough to take off my shoes in this shithole.
おう、お前ら裏に回れ。星に逃げられちゃ元もかもねえからな。
Oh god, is that how this plays out? Like, depending on who you suspect, that's who you go to immediately? Well, okay. Fingers fucking crossed, bro. Fingers crossed.
さて。
I steeled myself. The master of this world of death was right past his entryway. The bastard who conducted this unprecedented symphony of slaughter had to face punishment. I stepped into the wooden hallway, the floorboards groaning under my shoes.
こいつは。
Uzomi's voice was laced with disgust as he looked around. We'd followed the stench of death all the way to this room. Inside was a sight indeed fit for the piece of literature that had inspired these killings. A girl's body rested on the bed as if she were the centerpiece of a museum exhibit. Her eye sockets were hollow, swarms of maggots making themselves home in the withered cracks that had once been her cheeks. The girl's hair had been but entirely unyoked itself from her scalp, exposing her skull. In contrast, the rest of her body was in far better shape, so long as you ignored the threads binding the limbs together anyway.
西園ゆいか
Yep. That was a statement, not a question.
正確には西園ゆいと他5人分の遺体だな。
I took out the photo of her I had in my notebook. Unfortunately, she was hardly recognizable in that state.
他の部屋を当たってみる。
Uzomi left the room behind him. He was probably looking for the culprit. However, I sensed no other signs of life than us in his house. I stared at the corpse on the bed once more. She had a right leg. We still hadn't found a body missing a right leg. Yui Nishizona and Haruka Imamura's arms and legs had been mixed together to make two bodies look like one. So for a moment I considered a possibility one of their legs had been used. But the right leg's state of decay was clearly different from the heads or torsos. In fact, they were fresh, as if it were still attached to a living body.
レジ
Oh fuck, we're too late, weren't we? Uzomi promptly returned to the
犯人
room.
はもういないようだ。出るぞ、レジ。
Uzomi's voice was like the growl of a bear.
しかし、高城一菜が出るぞ。
It was only after Uzomi emphasized those words that I finally realized what had happened.
そうか。
So we were too late.
今うちの若いやつに運ばせる。高城へは
Fuck.
俺がつける。ああ、頼む。
God damn it. I didn't come here to find her corpse. Fuck, dude. Kazuna Takashido's death was quickly reported to the Takashido Detective Agency. When he heard the news, Shugo Takashido flew into a rampage so feral that not even the officers stationed there could restrain him. Since the police didn't have enough men to spare, Reiji Tokisaka asked Hatsune Amamiya of Moonworld to watch over Shugo. She wasted no time heading straight for Ueno.
シュウゴ様
The agency's lights were off. Hatsune used the faint light shining through the windows as her guide through the room. She looked down after feeling her foot nudge against something, only to find a crumpled up ball of paper.
シュウゴ様どこですか
Her anxiety accentuated by the darkness, Hatsune called Shugo's name as she fumbled about until she found the light switch. Hatsune squinted at the flood of light. However, what she found through her narrowed eyes was a wreck of a room. Documents were scattered all over the floor, while books had fallen from their shelves. Shugo was nowhere to be found. But why? I know I called him ahead of time to let him know I was coming. Maybe he's in the other room.
シュウゴ様
Hatsune opened the door and peeked in, but spotted no one. Maybe he went somewhere else. All of a sudden, her eyes settled on a piece of paper atop the desk. It stuck out like a sore thumb as the only neat paper amidst the trash heap of balled up scraps. Hatsune shuffled over to the desk and picked it up. It simply said, "I'll be out for a while." The note was in the same handwriting she'd seen time and time again when Shugo had taught her how to write.
そんな
Hatsune felt her heart shattered to pieces. She'd assured him she'd take care of him, and yet here she is now, abandoned.
シュウゴ様どうして
Hatsune crumpled up Shugo's letter. Teardrops splashed onto the desk. No, I can't just stand around crying all day. I have to find Sir Shugo. Hatsune sensed that something terrible would happen if she didn't, and so she quickly found the nearest phone and dialed the only number she'd remembered. Pick up, please.
はい、月世界です。
初音ですシュウゴ様がいなくなって
I visited the Kuchiki Pathological Research Institute the day after Kazuna Takashido's body was found. The house we'd broken into was Tatsuhiko Kusaka's family home. Though the police had immediately issued a bolo and set up checkpoints all over the city, they were no closer to finding him. Since that wasn't working out, I decided to hedge my bets on questioning Dr. Saito, his primary physician.
いくら私でも彼の行方までは分かりませんよ。
ええ、それは分かっています。ですが、草加がどのような精神状態にあったのかを聞きたいんです。 今までの事件を起こした動機。
I wonder
そ
if
してまだ
Okay,
続くのか。
motherfucker. Jesus, I get it. Shut up. So I kind of wonder if, like, I don't know if this is like a canon event, like if no matter what you choose, this is gonna happen. But I do wonder if, depending on those choices I picked in the uncover the truth bit, I wonder if that maybe could have been like, oh, you got everything right, so then you call the police and prevent this from happening. Like, I wonder if that's a thing. Because it seemed kind of, like, really important. But, I mean, man, what are the odds? We start off the episode banging a high schooler, and then here we are, like, 30 minutes in, and, we've supposedly found out who the real killer is, yet he's struck again on our friend's pregnant wife. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Okay, what did he say? He said, I'm aware of that, but shed some light on Kusaka's mental state to help me piece together his motives and whether he'll go or not help him kill him.
そうですね。彼の目的はほぼ達成られたと言って差し支えないと思われます。
Saito succinctly laid out his thoughts.
彼は西園優衣を愛していたのでしょう。それゆえ売春という行為に走った彼女を許せなかった。彼女の死因は分かりませんが、彼の殺意は彼女を追い込んだ者たちに向けられた。
それが被害者たちですか。
汚れた魂に罰を与え、その肉を用いて死者を復活させようとした。彼の精神はもともと薄弱でしたから、可能不可能の問題ではなかったのだと思われます。
ではなぜ無関係であるはずの高城一奈が殺害されたのですか。
That was the biggest question on my mind.
彼女は西園優衣とは何の関係もありませんでした。草加達彦が復讐するにふさわしくはありません。
彼には彼なりの指標があったのかもしれませんね。子宮をえぐり取っていたでしょう。もしも彼が成功や妊娠を不浄のものとして意味嫌っていたとしたら、
それでも彼女が狙われる理由にはならないと思います。
I looked around the room.
被害者も高城一奈もここの産科に通っていました。
Right. That was the common link between them all.
山之内くんは関係ありませんよ。もしこの研究所が関係するとしたら、彼の通院と高城さんの通院時期が重なっていた場合ですね。
ここで見初めた可能性はあるということですか。しかし妊婦が狙われる事件といえば、どうしてもある事件との関連を疑いたくなるのです。
This whole thing felt eerily similar to the serial killing 6 years ago.
六式事件でしたかな。妊婦ばかりが6人も殺されたという。
ええ、今回の事件は確かに復讐劇かもしれません。ですが自分にはあの事件とも重なってしまうんです。
そうでしたね。あなたは確か被害者と婚約されていましたね。
ええ、そうです。
しかしその着眼点は面白いかもしれませんね。犯人である草加達彦は六式事件を模倣し、子宮をえぐり取っていた。復讐を超えた快楽殺人だったのかもしれませんね。
Like hell, that's interesting.
そうなると大変ですね。目的と手段が入れ替わっている可能性があります。西園優衣の肉体の復活が終着点ではなく、殺人に至る行為を目的としている。
殺人に至る行為、それは神曲に沿った見立て殺人でしょうか。
そんなこともおっしゃっていましたね。神曲ならば確かにいくらでも罰する方法が書かれています。地獄の最下層、第9獄にあるコチートの氷地獄まで。
Cocytus, also known as the River of Lamentation, was the hell reserved for traitors in the Divine Comedy. And naturally, there are plenty of other hells to go before reaching it.
そうですね。彼はまだ犯行を重ねる可能性が高い。何としてでもそれを止めなくてはなりません。
そんなことは分かっています。
Oh, my bad. I had to find Kusaka in order to bring my friend the peace of knowing his wife's killer had been served justice. After leaving the Kuchiki Pathological Research Institute, I went around visiting place to place before returning home in the evening. I was still no closer to tracking down Kusaka, nor had I received any word from Obergirls Academy, naturally. Apparently, the police had put out a nationwide APB for him, but they hadn't had any more luck in their efforts. Eventually, I was hitting a dead end myself.
ただいま。ゆかり
Odd. Yukari would usually be cooking dinner right about now. Yet there wasn't a sign of her in the kitchen. Huh. Guess she's just out then. Yeah, no. What? She's not just out. Fucking excuse me, there's a serial killer on the loose. Oh, well, I guess my sister's just out and about. Yeah, fuck no. But if that was the case, then why was my heart raging like a storm? I spotted a piece of paper atop my desk. The following was written in red ink. A marsh it makes, which has the name of the Styx. This tristful brooklet, when it has descended down to the foot of the malign grey shores. And I, who stood intent upon beholding, saw people mud-besprent in that lagoon, all of them naked and with angry look. They smote each other not alone with hands, but with the head and with the breast and feet, tearing each other piecemeal with their teeth. This is another passage from the Divine Comedy.
第7曲第5国
Oh god, okay. However, the handwriting was clearly different from all the other excerpts. Plus, the shade of red was sanguine. Someone had written the passage in blood. But why would it be on my desk?
まさか
I burst out of my
ゆか
room.
りおいゆかり
She wasn't there.
くそ
I picked up the phone and dialed Uozomi at the MPD.
おうレイジ、どうした？
ゆかりがいなくなったんだ。例の新曲の書き置きが残されていて、おそらく奴がまだ動いているに違いない。
落ち着けレイジ。ゆかりちゃんがいなくなったのは確かなんだな。
どうしよう
If this was Kusaka's handiwork, then it was highly likely that she'd be somewhere that evoked the Divine Comedy. Kanto's, what is that, 5, 6, 7? Yeah. Thank you. Kanto 7, the Hell of the Wrathful, was in the Marsh of the Styx, meaning she'd be somewhere with a pond. You are not about to put this on me. Oh, fuck. Okay, let's lock in, right? Fuck. Okay. Musa Shiseki, Inokashida, and Shakuji. So this is Inokashida Park. Where's Musa Shiseki? Is that even on this map? It might not be. Fuck me, this is so fucked. Shakuji Park. I don't know. What? I don't know. Fucking. Oh man, no, this is so not good. I can only think of Inokashida. I can't imagine anywhere else that they would be. Okay, we're
井
doing
の
it.
頭公園に警官を回してくれ。
わかった。俺も向かう。
Please let this be right. I hung up and immediately prepared for departure. Yukari's shoes were still by the front door. I see. No wonder I got so worried when I didn't see Yukari. I went over to Inokashida Park. It only took a second to spot Uozomi.
魚住 今辺りを捜索させているが芳しくはない。そうか。
Shit. Did I pick the wrong
手
spot?
分けして探そう。ここが終わったらお前は無罪石公園の方を探してくれ。分かった。早く見つけねえとな。
I'm gonna be completely blunt here. If we find out, if we find her at one of these other parks and she's dead, I'm going to load the game back and we're going to play it correctly. I do not give a shit. If this is Yukari we're talking about, I am not going to fucking compromise with her, okay? Thus, I headed for Shakuji Park after getting Uzomi's stamp of approval. Shakuji Park was as quiet and deserted as a bank on a Sunday. I can't read anymore. I circled Senpoji Pond while keeping an eye out for fishy places. Just then, it occurred to me that this park had a Benten shrine and a cave. If you were going to hide anyone here, that seemed like the best spot. There was a small shrine archway opposite Itsukushima Shrine with an even smaller door past it. The door was slightly ajar. Guess I've only got one choice here. I opened the door and stooped to pass through it. It was black as night in the cave. The earthen walls were chilly and damp. I fumbled about, carefully taking one step forward at a time. There was no proof Yukari was around, but I had to see this as a gamble through to the end. It got brighter and brighter the further I progressed. Holy shit, is someone actually here? I fought the urge to run toward the light, carefully tiptoeing ahead to conceal my footsteps instead. However, the cavern ended all of a sudden. The walls around were hardened and plastered with concrete. For a moment I thought I might have been in a bomb shelter during the war, but the place was far too fancy for that. It was more likely the remains of some military installation. I nearly tripped over something. It took me a moment to realize it was a man's corpse. His head was drenched in a puddle of blood. What? I flipped the corpse face up, and it was indeed Kusaka's body. He didn't have any external wounds from what I could see, yet he was undeniably dead. Had he taken a fatal overdose of something? But if so, why would he choose this place to commit suicide? Just then, I spotted something behind some steel bars. It was none other than
Yukari.
The cell was chilled with freezing air like an ice house. Yukari was naked and curled up in some transparent ice. It almost looked as though she was encased in a shell of ice.
Oi! Yukari!
I couldn't believe the sight before my eyes. She's gonna freeze to death if she stays there too long. I rocked the bars savagely like a feral animal in a zoo, but they didn't budge. The cell was blocked off by a giant padlock with the following scrap of paper attached to it. Now was I, and with fear in verse I put it. There where the shades were wholly covered up and glimmered through like unto straws in glass. This was Canto, whatever the fuck that is, of the Divine Comedy. The Frozen Hell. I ripped up the paper in anger. If I don't get this cell open, Yukari's doomed! Still, this whole thing struck me as bizarre. Kusaka didn't seem like the type to set up something so elaborate and pointless. Well, whatever the case, the key had to be somewhere nearby. I reluctantly left the cell behind and scanned the cave again, only to spot a foot clad in wooden clogs in a dark corner. I recognized it. That was Takashito. I approached him timidly. Takashito was on the ground, his hands bound behind his back, with his eyes and mouth covered. He twitched slightly. Thank God he's still alive.
Oi, Takashiro.
I was about to help him up when I noticed a piece of paper stuck to his chest. O wrathful one who hath lost thyself to anger, take the blood of thy wrathful brother to save this angelic soul. The key dwells in his entrails. Oh, well, that's fucked up. A chill ran down my spine. A large, sheathed knife rested right next to Takashito. I couldn't save Yukari unless I killed Takashito and took the key. What was the point of all this? Wasn't Kusaka dead already? No, that didn't matter. Okay. It's quite possible we got the killer mixed up. Or maybe the killer had an accomplice in Kusaka. Fuck me, this is so fucked. Where's my guy? Yeah, so this is our guy here. So he's been kidnapped and put into here, right? Am I right on that? It was unclear how long Yukari'd been in the ice, so I had to free her as soon as possible. There was no one else around, meaning I was the only one who could save her. I picked up the knife and... Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm contemplating because oh, fuck. Alright, I'm gonna play this through. If Yukari ends up dead or whatever, I'm going to load it back. But fuck, kill Takashido and take the key, or wait for Uzomi and his men. I'm going to look at this from as logical a perspective as I can. We don't know how long Yukari's been in there. It's a 50-50. Schrodinger's cat, right? This is a 50-50 chance that she's dead or alive. If we wait for Uzomi to get here, he most definitely will have the equipment necessary, hopefully, I would imagine, to get this bolt, to get this lock undone. However, I don't want that to be the reason that Yukari dies, because we took too long. On the other hand, I feel like with how this has gone so far, I would not be surprised if we ripped open Takashiro's guts, found nothing, and were just fucked and having killed one of our friends. Or even if we found the key, Yukari's dead anyway. Okay, I'm back. Had to go pick up food. Anyways, so I think we're gonna kill Takashido. I figure if this goes wrong, I'm probably gonna reload the game anyway and save her. And we have that option saved anyway, so if this ends up leading nowhere, I'll reload back again. So I got options here. Now I'm only doing all this reloading because it's Yukari. That's it. I'm not gonna explain myself. That should be explanation enough. I unsheathed the knife and held it in a reverse grip. My insides twisted as I brought down the blade. It had been over 10 years since I've had the displeasure of partaking in this sensation. My last memory of the act was when I had impaled an enemy soldier with the bayonet in close quarters combat during the war. My right eye ached, recalling the wound I sustained back then. I dug through the crimson blood and guts, my eyes blurry. Takashido's milky white fat was soon dying for Million. The note said it was in his entrails, meaning his stomach maybe. I pressed the tip of my blade against that smooth and rounded organ. Stomach acid and blood gushed out as I slipped the knife forward. I then thrust my hands into the opening without a moment's hesitation, pillaging its contents. There was something hard in there. Found it. I pulled out the key. I unlocked the cell and walked up to Yukari. My hands traced the icy shell.
何してやがるんだレイジよ。
魚住
Yeah, this does not look good, does it? I turned toward the source of the growl to find Uzomi standing there, squaring his shoulders with a scowl etched deep on his countenance.
レイジてめえ高城をやったのか。
ただゆかりを助けようと。
うるせえ。おうこいつの身柄も確保しろ。
The cop who'd accompanied Uzomi nodded and seized my arms.
待ってくれ。ゆかりがまだ。
分かってる。あとは任せろ。どうして俺らが来るまで待てなか
Yeah,
った
I'm
んだ。
thinking, we're loading back. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. You know, something tells me that Uzomi and his men are going to be here any second. Let's just wait. Yeah, I think that's the intelligent decision. Why would anybody kill Takashiro? That's a little bit rash, isn't it? Like hell I'd do that! Taking another's life, much less Takashiro's, to save Yukari was simply out of the question. No matter how badly I wanted to free her, there had to be another way. I seized the bars and rattled them with every ounce of my strength.
ゆかり。
The cell bars creaked and groaned under my force. Chains clinked as they shook back and forth. Yukari was just a stone's throw away, yet I couldn't reach her. I punched the padlock with all my might. Blood gushed out of my fist. Of course, that wouldn't have been enough to break the lock. Still, I couldn't give up. I'd be damned if I did. I had to hurry before Yukari died. My right pinky twisted unnaturally with a crack akin to a corpse getting pulverized beneath the treads of a tank. And yet I felt no pain, meaning there must have been something I could still do. But right then, someone restrained me from behind.
やめろレイジ。
魚住話してくれ。早くここを開けないとゆかりが。
分かってる。
Uzomi pushed me away. I staggered back and fell on my backside. Uzomi issued orders to the cops who'd accompanied him.
お前はノコギリ持ってきてこの鉄格子を切れ。あとお前らはそこで腰抜かしてるやつと伸びてるのを連れて行け。
おい、ゆかりを。
分かってるからさっさと行きやがれ。
The cops flanking me picked me up and dragged me away after Uzomi's bellowing echoed through the cave.
おい、ゆかり、ゆかり。
I screamed Yukari's name over and over until I could no longer see her. Oh, please let Yukari be alive. Oh, hospital room, that's a good sign. People were talking.
収容された時にはすでに低体温症から心肺停止状態に陥っていまし
Oh,
た。
fuck.
蘇生処置を施しましたが、すでに遅く。
そうですか。
もう一人の方は睡眠薬で昏睡状態にあっただけのようです。検査の結果、胃に金属質のものが入っているのが確認されました。
それがあそこの鍵だったってわけか。で先生、こいつは
彼ですか。右手の怪我は大したことありません。しかし
精神を随分とやられてしまったようですね。まったくその紙に書かれていたことを実行しなかったのが奇跡に近いですよ。
Huh? What are they talking about? Oh well, doesn't matter to me. I'll just sleep a little more. Let me guess, that's a bad ending. Yep, game over. Game over. Okay. Well, that's it, guys. That's the show Inferno. I hope you guys... Now we're going back. Whoa! Oh my god. We're back. Something's telling me Shakuji Park. The Senpoji Pond. That must be where she is. Excuse me. Legitimately, I do not know how we were supposed to find this out. I want to check real quick. Because I do think that we had... Wasn't there a body that was there previously? I swear there was. Let's see... Evidence list, maybe. Butter corpse. Maybe not that. Probably gonna be listing characters. Disappeared, wasn't a delinquent, yada yada yada. Sewn to it. Disappeared through February, wasn't a delinquent, receiving an abortion. she was found at the Thomas Cemetery. Orihime didn't not tell me where. Anyways, whatever. I just wanted to see if there was anything specific.
石神井公園に警官を回し
分かった
I hung up and immediately prepared for departure. You guys used by the front door. No wonder I felt that it wasn't right. Yep, we've already done all that before. Oh, what? It just brings me back to this? I am so... Fuck, okay. Fuck it. Fuck it. Oh, fuck. I mean, this clearly plays out the same exact way. Oh, wait, what? This part of a section, this section of text is on red.
彼はもう無理ですね。完全に精神がやられてしまっています。
先生、なんとかならんのですか。
目の前であのようなものを見せられては、回復には随分と時間がかかると思われます。
一緒に収容された彼は特に外傷もありませんでした。ただ胃の中に異物が入っているとかでしばらく検査は必要です。
ちくしょう。なんでてめえだけこんなことになっちまってんだよ。
Huh? What are they talking about? Well, it doesn't
し
matter
か
to
し
me.
彼女は強いですね。低体温で心肺停止だったのに持ち直すとは。下肢状態からの後遺症も見られない回復
Oh,
は
thank God.
極めて珍しいのですが。
Oh, I see. Yukari survived. Thank God. Now I can sleep just a little more. Game over. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Well, I guess not technically welcome back. So, if you're confused as to what's going on right now, here's what happened. I recorded roughly an hour and a half-ish, an hour 40 minutes of footage yesterday. I edited the video, got it uploaded, but then I got a community guideline strike for inappropriate content, which I probably should have been a bit more conservative when it came to censoring some of those bits. Is that how I would correctly use that phrase? I don't know. But anyways, so I got a community guideline strike. So I figured that since I woke up to kind of that annoying news, because I ended up getting the video like actually uploaded late last night, just because it takes about fucking 2 hours in and of itself to, you know, process the video after I'm done editing it. So that's the case. So I figured, why not just mash those two episodes together? That was kind of my plan to begin with. I was going to upload that as like a part 9, and then I was going to upload this video as like a part 9.5. So as you have literally just watched to this point, but I'm going to go over it for my own reliving. We ended up kind of reaching a bit of a dead end in which we save. Well, I'm gonna go with the more optimistic ending that we got. So we saved Yukari, we found and saved Shugo, and we also found the I think it was Kusaka, the killer, quote unquote, and he was, I think he died, or I think he might have lived, but anyways. So the reason I say killer, quote unquote, is because I'm imagining I will have edited this little bit out, because I did kind of go on a big ramble sesh at the end of the last recording. But basically, to summarize what I said, it didn't add up, is what I was saying. Like, they said he killed his sister supposedly out of the fact that he was off his meds and like didn't forgive her for prostituting herself, getting herself pregnant, and then getting an abortion, right? And so then that's why he went after Shugo's wife, because she was pregnant. Then that's, you know, why he did all this stuff. But then it didn't make sense to me. It's like, to a degree it made sense, but then that last little bit, it didn't make any sense at all. It's like, so he kills his sister, kills all these people in Schisma. Okay, cool. And I guess you could say that after all that killing, he just started killing for the fun of it, saw pregnancy as a sin in and of itself, and then, you know, kidnapped Shugo's wife in order to, you know, complete that body that we found, because he presumably killed Shugo's wife, took her leg, and then, you know, finished that Frankenstein body that we found. But then it doesn't make sense to me how he died, or how he ended up face down in that little bunker in a pool of blood. Shugo was still tied up when we got there. I guess it could be argued that maybe when either he was trying to grab Yukari or Shugo, that they hit him over the head with something and then he bled out later, but that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I was kind of thinking, and it feels like, and I've said this before, I think, but I think there was an accomplice, because it feels a little too convenient that in this kind of abrupt ending, he's just kind of dead. There's no, like, really big reveal. There's no arrest, and then, oh yeah, you know, I got you, you dirty bastard. Like, there's none of that. He's just, oh yeah, and he's all, you know, oh hey, we found Yukari and Shugo, and then I guess he's, you know, dead on the ground as well. So I think there's something else going on. I think there's somebody else to catch, and I think that there was definitely an accomplice in all this. Especially when he supposedly breaks his MO and goes after another pregnant woman. It's not necessarily a stretch of logic, considering he's a psychopathic killer, but at the same time he's a psychopathic killer. I feel like at that point he would have adhered more strictly to his like, you know, own moral code. So yeah, I think, again, though, we're at a point in the game where there's not really much else we can do. I think we've pretty much reached a dead end, like I said. So here's my plan. I want to go back through the game-ish. First off, what I want to do is I want to go back here. I'm gonna skip through all this. And I have to censor all this again. I'll probably just blur everything here, so enjoy this blur. But here we go. So this is our little list of evidence, and I think we are approaching a point now where, where's the log? Here we go. So now we're kind of decoding stuff again. So where was it from? It was from the Egg of Nienus. We know that. Pavel, an adult man. Phone rang.
Oh,
ああ、すまないな。
被害者の家族に当たってみたんだがな。
What did he say? Oh, yeah.
そう。
So we have the definitive link. Get ready to mobilize on my command. So, what I want to try and do here, I want to try and really go through everybody, right? I mean absolutely everybody that we even think could be a suspect. So, we already went through, where's our guy? We already went through Tatsuhiko Kusaka. We found him, you know, that this is a guy that objectively has a connection to this case. We know that now. But like I said, I don't think he's working alone. So it's just a question of who is working with him. I wish there was a way to like cross people out when we're doing this. Okay, so let's kind of get some obvious people out of the way. Kyoko, no. Yukari, obviously not. We know she's one of the victims. Toko, no. Hatsune, no. Uzomi, I'm gonna say no. Psyche, he's on there. Victim, no, absolutely not. Victim, no. Victim. Maybe. Toko, I honestly kind of thought it might have been Toko. But I'm gonna say no. No. We already know he's involved. No. Shinzo, we didn't even meet. Stella, we don't know enough about her. Chizuru, absolutely not. Maybe. No, she's dead. Victim. Maybe. I'm kind of suspicious of her. No, I don't think so. Maybe and maybe. So we have a lot of people to work through. So let's start working through it, right? I'm sorry if this is going to be boring, by the way. I'm just kind of really trying to think through here. Because again, I think the only other option I have at this point is to completely restart the game, right? And I think that I might have been a little bit derailed when I was kind of messing around with like Orihime and all this other stuff. I think I would need to like primarily focus on one character in order to get down their route fully and get one of the quote-unquote real endings. But that aside. So, let's work our way down the list. Psyche, I just don't think he really has much. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, he's kind of an annoying prick just because of the fact that, like, oh, hey, girls are missing from our school. Let me not tell anybody about that and hire a private detective instead. And then, you know, obviously, that private detective is gonna bang one of my students, but whatever. I just don't think it's really, he doesn't have much connection, you know? Nene. I suspected Nene originally just because she obviously has this very scandalous relationship going on with the students, right? She seems to be going out of her way to sexually gratify them. And in an all-girls school, I can't say I'm surprised. Like, I get what she's doing, right? Like, oh, hey, you don't know what some of these girls are going through. You know, I'm helping them out kind of thing. So it's like, okay, don't get me wrong, that's not justifiable at all, but I guess we can't really say much considering the actions we just took. It would make sense, right? She works at the school, she's a co-worker of Kusaka, right? She has motive to not want to get her hands dirty. She probably knows a lot of these students a lot more intimately than anybody else, and probably a lot more than she lets on. I think she's probably one of my prime suspects, but then again, some of the girls weren't even at the school. But maybe it wasn't even girls she had relationships with that she was going after. Maybe she found out about Schisma. But then it's like, well, why would she want to kill these girls? You know? Like, she has never really shown animosity or suspicion, but at the same time, neither has Kusaka. So, now that I actually think about it, as you saw at the little end bit of the last episode, we were really tying this back to the murders that took place 6 years ago that our wife was the victim to, where the doctor kind of went after these people. So that's kind of, I think that we should probably work from there. I think they knew it was a guy. Like, I'm pretty sure it was a man, right? I'd have to look through other stuff, but I'm pretty sure it was a man. Yeah, killer's still at large. So, that makes it kind of tough. Granted, we don't really have many female suspects, but really the primary is going to be Nene and Koharu, just because those two have very direct connections with presumably all, if not most, of the victims. But then again, it's like, what's the motive, right? The only other person, I think besides those two, the person I have the most suspicion of is probably going to be Shin Katsuragi himself. Because, again, he's the author of the book. He knew Yui Nishizono personally. And again, I think it's one of those things where he knew her a lot better than he actually lets on. Because he kind of brushed it off as like, oh yeah, well, I knew her, but she just was one of my first fans. But then it's like, yeah, but, you know, you supposedly knew about her abortion. You were there with her when she was getting the abortion, right? So it's like, you know a lot more than you're letting on, but you're not telling me. So, and again, he also receives therapy at the Kuchiki Pathological Research Institute. There you go. So, okay, whoa, hold up. So not only does he have multiple connections, direct connections with all of the victims through his book and through his knowledge of Yui Nishizono, who presumably would have probably told him about schisma and all that, but he also has a potential direct connection with Kusaka himself because they both received therapy at the Kuchiki Institute. Huh. Okay. We'll try him first. Because I don't think anybody else has any real connections. I really want to say Naoki, just because he's kind of an asshole. But we don't know anything about. We've had 2 interactions with him, and again, look how much we know about him. Nothing. Okay, we'll try Shin. Hello, they're still alive. Oh wait, we're looking for victims? Oh, I'm fucking stupid. What are we doing? Who is the victim in the initial incident? Dismembered. Oh, okay. Well, that was Yui Nishizono. The fingerprints belong to Haruki Yamamoto's, yada yada yada. They were all members of Schisma. There's a crime syndicate. What are we looking for now? And who is their leader? Orihime. So they alluded to the Egg of Nianis, which took inspiration from the Divine Comedy. Who's the culprit behind these murders? Well, I think we're going to say Shin Katsuragi. Will it let us say this? Shin Katsuragi, the author of the Egg of Nianis. He fit the bill best, didn't he? After all, he'd met Yui Nishizono. He'd also probably knew about her abortion. The Egg of Nianis and its inspiration, the Divine Comedy, both had heavy Christian themes, and abortion was taboo in the Christian faith. So with that in mind, maybe he punished her for her sins. Real quick, I am curious, because the reason that we found that Frankenstein body in the first place was because, I think because we suspected Kusaka. But anyways, we're going to skip through all this until we come across stuff that we have. Okay, so we ended up finding that house anyway. This is all, okay, so there's no new dialogue. Then again, Senpoji Pond. Huh. Okay, so that doesn't change anything. Interesting. Huh. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to restart from the beginning then.
A few moments later.
Oh, そうなのか。
I'd planned to escort her back, but I figured she'd be safe with Tojiko.
トジコはどこに住んでいるんだ？
トジコは西荻窪駅の南側。
Yukari suddenly cut her words short.
もう兄さんがトジコって言うから私まで釣られたじゃないですか。
わかりやすくていいだろ。
よく中藤！
A ferocious body slam knocked me off balance.
早かったのね、つづり子。今、ゆかりんもトジコ行ってなかった？きっと気のせいよ。
She's just as shameless as I am.
ところで、先生とゆかりんは何の話をしてたの？
お前が住んでいるのはどこなのかという話だったな。
先生、ひょっとして私を尾行するつもり？
なんでそうなる？
I swear, I just don't get kids these days.
うちを突き止められる前に逃げるよ、ゆかりん。それもそうね。では兄さん、お仕事頑張ってくださいね。
ああ、ゆかり。今日は帰るの遅くなるだろうから、 俺の分の飯はいらないからな。
わかりました。
Yukari and Tojiko left school together. Much as I had enjoyed that little diversion, it was now time to get back to work.
時坂先生。
お
Jesus Christ. I've turned around to find Kusaka right behind me.
草加先生。
ああ、
I know
妹
what
さん
you
でしたか。
are. Kusaka watched as Yukari and Tojiko faded into the distance.
ゆかりが何か。
いえ、いくら身内とはいえ、学内で声をかけるのは感心しませんね。
Kusaka smiled sympathetically.
ここではむやみに男性と接触することを禁じています。教師と学生ならばともかく、職務を離れたところでの会話をしてはならないんです。
ああ、そいつは厳しいですね。
Fucking bum ass school. That was gonna make my work harder than cleaning the Agian stables. The fact that very few of them responded to me at all meant that there were only so many sources I could mine for intel. But if that was what the job entailed, then so be it.
厳しいですよ。
Kusaka replied solemnly. Okay, nothing crazy there. I think at this point, it's still closed over that way. Maybe Inokashira Park? The trees were slowly but surely beginning to bloom once more. It wouldn't be long before people came in droves to watch the cherry blossoms, which is why I decided to savor the park in all its serenity before it was too late.
時坂先生ではありませんか？
That familiar voice caught my attention.
ああ、月島さん。
Odd. Her groupies, no, friends weren't with her for a change.
こんなところで何を？
散歩です。ただの。
Orihime's deadpan expression betrayed no emotion.
そうですか。最近は物騒ですから気をつけてくださいね。
例の失踪事件ですか？
ええ、そうです。
Since she'd brought up the case on her own, maybe this would be a good time to ask if she knew anything. Though, honestly, that glare of hers wasn't exactly welcoming. Let's try asking her, I guess.
月島さんは事件について何か知っていることはありますか？
さあ、詳しい状況は何も。それがどうかなさいましたか？
There was that scrutinizing look again.
いや、特に他意はないんですが、少々気になったもので。
まるで小説の探偵のような言い方をなさるのですね。
Her words sent a chill down my spine.
非常勤とはいえ教師ですからね。学生の心配をするのは当然ですよ。
そうですわね。
Orihime nodded with a sigh.
では失礼いたします。あらぬ噂を立てられたくはございませんので。
She gave me a quick bow before leaving.
One eternity later.
Yes. Okay. So this is where Orihime got snatched. I don't know. I don't know if we can actually find her or something. Oh, fuck, I forget where she was found. I don't know if we can actually save her, though. Okay. If I was... I think last time we chose Obergirls Academy, didn't we? So we chose Obergirls Academy. I think we just came from there, though. Moonworld, Inokashira Park. I'm gonna save here just in case. So it seems like at this point I've kind of like gone down the Orihime path inadvertently. I was trying to go down Toko's, but there's not too many opportunities I feel like where I can find her. I just kept clicking Inokashira Park, kept running into Orihime, so I was like, alright, I might as well stick with this. I don't know if I can find her. It's the thing. Alright, well, we'll try Inokashira Park, I guess. Okay, we did that before. Okay, well, clearly that didn't work. So, let's try and load back. let's do. So we did Moon World and Inukashita Park, or no, Shinjuku Station. Oh no, we did Inukashita Park and Shinjuku Station. Okay, let's try Obergirls maybe. Though I knew the odds were slim, maybe she was in the school. I held fast whatever sliver of hope there was and raced inside. I checked the classrooms, storerooms, clubrooms, auditorium, and even the chapel, but there was no hide nor hair for her to be found.
どうですか?
Nene shot me a concerned look when I dropped by the infirmary.
まだ見つかりません。
でもまだ月島さんがその犯人に捕まったとは。
今までの調査で得た被害者の共通点。
Only discovered the truth behind the black
他のところを探してきます。
Maybe Takashiro Clinic?
おや、時坂藩やないですか。
ああ。
Natsume was walking my way. She must have been heading somewhere.
ちょうどよかったわ。さっきな、そこの屋台で決体のも売ってましてな。
そんなのはいいですから、夏目さん。この子を見ませんでした。
I interrupted Natsume and showed her Orihime's photo.
いけずよ。その子がどないしはりました？
今朝から行方不明になっています。おそらく例の件絡みです。
おお、それはそれは。
A dark fire gleamed in Natsume's eyes.
今度の仏さんはこの子かいな。
夏目さん
Even I was shocked by how loud I roared.
今は冗談でもそんなことは言わないでください。
そうやね。堪忍な、時。
Natsume backed down surprisingly easily.
見覚えはありませんか？
あらへんな。せやけどこの子、べっぴんさんやね。狙われるのもわかるような気がするわ。
容姿だけが狙われる理由ではありませんけどね。
No, our culprits were motivated by something far more specific, like a seething grudge of sorts.
ここらにはおらへんやろね。
そうですね。
I just have to look somewhere else. Yep, and then it cuts to there. I don't think we can find her. I think it's just a canon thing that she dies. Okay. So we'll try Moon World. I arrived at Kishijoji Station. Hopefully one of the many pedestrians who'd passed through had seen Orihime, or at least that was what I had hedged my bets on. I showed her photo to everyone and asked around, but unfortunately it was a bust. That wasn't to say none of them knew or recognized Orihime. The problem was that said people hadn't seen her today, which was all that really mattered.
時坂さん、こんにちは。
ああ、初音くんか。
お仕事ですか？
Hasane must have been out shopping, if the paper bag she carried was in the indicator.
そうだ。今日この子を見た覚えはないかな。
Come on, I need a lucky break here.
まあ、綺麗な方ですね。この方がどうされたのですか？
行方不明になっているんだ。
それって。
Hasane gasped.
見覚えはないようだね。
はい、すみません。
君が謝ることじゃないよ。ありがとう。
Hasane spoke up, calling me to a stop.
絶対に見つけてあげてください。
ああ、もう。
It was only after I watched her walk away that I remembered something important. Hatsune had lost some of her caretakers 5 years ago in a quite similar fashion. I needed to find Orihime no matter what it took. Damn, okay, so I mean, we've searched Shinjuku Station, Takashido, Obug, Moonworld, Inukashita. The last place to check is this.
高城、いるか？
あれ、時坂さんじゃないですか。
Kazune was sitting all by herself in Takashido's office.
カズナさん。高城はいないんですか？
修吾さんでしたらお仕事で出かけていますよ。
そうですか。ではカズナさん、今日これまでにこの少女を見た覚えはありませんか？
Last fucking place that we have to look for. I showed Orihime's photo to Kazuna.
わあ、綺麗な人ですね。
今朝から行方不明になっているんです。
そうなんですか？だったら修吾さんに聞いた方が。
俺もそのつもりでここへ来たんですがね。
There was nothing I could do if he wasn't home. I didn't have a minute to
では
waste.
カズナさん、奴が戻ってきたらよろしくお伝えください。
はい、わかりました。お気をつけてくださいね。
I walked out, Kazuna's encouragement at my back. So that's it, Orihime can't be saved. She's doomed to die.
Thousands of tears later.
I exited the prep room after spending some time reviewing this new information. My next course of action was clear. I was going to have to talk with her, much like I'd expected. All I could do was hope she was in today. Shortly thereafter, I reached the seniors' classroom. Students were taking their classes inside without a single spark of levity like always. But I didn't see her. Figures.
私を探しているのですか、時坂先生。
Indeed. The voice caught me off guard.
月島さん。
I turned around, stunned. She looked haggard, like she'd been to hell and back.
先生。
Oh? What's more, even her voice had a forlorn twang to it. Oh my god, did I finally fucking holy shit, yes.
場所を変えよう。まだ授業中だ。
Orihime looked so fragile that I feared the school would erupt into chaos if any other students so much as caught a glimpse of her. And thus, after quick deliberation, I took her to the infirmary. Dr. Akizaki wasn't in, for better or for worse. However, Orihime didn't say anything once we were alone. She simply planted her roots in the floor, hardly so much as blinking. Holy fucking actual goddamn shit, did I finally fucking figure this out? I brewed some coffee using the water boiled in the kettle.
どうぞ。
Afterward, I forced the cup into Orihime's hands. That did the trick, alright. She stared dazedly at me as if the coffee's heat had finally broken the spell.
先生、私。
まずはそれを飲んで心を落ち着けるんだ。
もう落ち着いています。
Okay. I'm not even gonna lie, I have no idea what I did different. What did I do? I did all the stuff. I talked to her those few times. I asked her about the missing girls. I didn't ask her about the whole black egg stuff. I don't know what I did different. Oh, whatever, man. I've been sitting here for fucking 3 hours now, so, I'm good.
そうか。では、いくつか尋ねたいことがあるけれど、いいかな。
どうぞ。私は全てを答えなくてはいけないのでしょうから。
では、シスマというのは何だい？
異端の集合体です。
Wow, color me surprised. I didn't expect her to confess so readily. Excuse me. At any rate, it seemed I'd been right. She really was their leader.
私はこれまで何一つ不自由のない暮らしをしてきました。いえ、むしろ自由のない人生でしょうか。
Orihime just started prattling off without even taking a sip of her coffee.
この学院も先生はご存知でしょうが、大変しつけも厳しく窮屈なところです。
Oops. The cup clattered in her hands.
それを変えようと思ったのは去年のことです。きっかけは何だったでしょう。もう忘れてしまいましたが、私は学院に、大人に、社会に罰を与えようと思ったのです。
She smiled ever so slightly after saying that.
私はシスマを作りました。抑圧された生活に嫌気がさしている方は大勢おりました。もちろんここだけではなく、他の学園でも。
その中に小泉慶と滝川由美という少女はいたのかい？
名前など気にしたことはありませんでした。ただ同じ目的を持つことこそ喜びでしたから。
それで君は殻を破ってしまった。
殻なんてすでに破られていたのです。苦痛だったものが快感に変わり、私は抜け出せなくなりました。女性のみに授けられたこの力があれば、世を乱すことなど造作もない。
A single drop spread ripples across her coffee.
秘密を共有することでシスマの結束は高まりました。本で読んだ話をもとにくだらない噂も作って。
黒い卵を割ると黒い聖母に殺される。
何の意味もない言葉だったんです。でも次々とシスマはいなくなり、
たわいない噂が現実のものとなった。
詳しい話は知りません。ですがいなくなったのも殺されていたのも皆シスマだった人たちです。
Knew it.
私は確信しました。次に黒い聖母に殺されるのは私だと。残暴と分裂の種をまいた者は体を切り裂かれてしまうのです。
それは神曲の一節だね。
いえ、これはネアニスの卵の。
ネアニスの卵？
そういう本があるのです。黒い卵のこともここから。
なるほど。
In other words, that book described what had happened and what would happen in these killings?
心身ともに汚れた私はもう許されることはありません。私はもう。
Orihime suddenly wobbled from side to side.
危ない！
My hand was around her arm before I even knew what I was doing. The floor was stained with coffee.
先生、私
I stared at her tear-stained eyes.
は汚れています。
そんなことはない。
ならば耐えてください。
We're on a fucking generational run, huh? Orihime pleaded me to be with her.
私の体はあまたの男性によって汚されました。それでも汚れていないとおっしゃるのでしたら、どうぞ私を。
同情だなんて。
So it seems that from my initial understanding, it was kind of made out to be this thing where like they were forced into prostitution, right? Or at the very least, 'cause, I mean, the whole thing was that, oh, they distribute drugs and, you know, they prostitute their members. But it seemed more like a thing where they probably, of their own accord, got into drugs and prostituted themselves as a way of rebelling. Again, like she said, it's, you know, that's the only way a woman can rebel or something like that. And that's a pretty common theme that you notice. And this is even just a history thing. This isn't even just like a fictional, like this is a historical thing, right? You know, like slave women, and, you know, black female slaves, oftentimes would find that, oh yeah, well, you know, I'm going to have sex with the white man. I'm going to have sex with one of the plantation owners or one of their workers, whatever. And to them, that was a show of, you know, rebellion, showing that I have control over my own body. This isn't you know, seducing me and controlling me. This is me making action with my own body, right? So it was kind of a way to regain a little bit of control. And I imagine that this obviously in some way is similar to that, feeling like your whole life and your whole being is controlled by your family, who's, you know, rich and powerful and influential. And, you know, it probably doesn't help that the schools that they're going to are, you know, so strict in their, like, moral coding, right? So it's really no surprise that these kinds of groups would form, and those are the kind of acts that they would divulge in. But then obviously at the end of the day, right, it's like, you know, it's going to take a toll on you, right? So if fulfilling a request will save her, then I'll... Oh, God, man, come on. Orihime kissed me first. Her soft lips felt slightly damp. She kissed me over and over to moisten my dry lips. I guess he's just got a thing. He's just got a charm with high school girls. Like, well, actually, no, not even just high school girls, just like freaks, man. Toko, Orihime, Natsume. I mean, man, I couldn't just sit back and let her take the lead. Thus, I stuck out my tongue and licked her lips. Orihime clamped down on my tongue and licked the tip of it. Saliva was strewn about as our tongues wrestled. Orihime's hot breath caressed my face.
ご迷惑でしょうが、今は私だけを愛してください。
あ
あ。
Her tongue invaded my mouth. Its tip brushed across my teeth. Orihime placed her hands on my cheeks and leaned into me. Next, she reached for my crotch. She shot me a flirtatious look, unbuckling my belt all the while. Orihime started sucking my dick without so much as a word before I even knew what was going on. She bobbed her head up and down while licking my glands. I could tell she was quite experienced. Jesus Christ. Orihime diligently rolled her tongue down my shaft.
Tsukishima-san.
今だけは織姫と呼んでください。
Her pleading eyes met mine when she looked up.
織姫。
申し訳ありません。こんなはしたない女で。
今はそんなことを言ってはいけないよ。
I ran my fingers through her hair.
はい。
You know, I'm genuinely curious how they got these sound effects. You know, like, obviously they're voice acting, but it's like, I wonder if they actually had to, like, suck on something to get those kinds of sounds. Because it legitimately sounds like something's in her mouth, right? Oh, fuck, I missed something. Orihime continued her ministrations after I gave her a nod. She caressed the base of my glands with her movements. I was met with a happy glance shortly after I made that statement. Saliva trickled down my cock, flattening my pubes. The quick glimpses of my shaft that I caught between her bobs revealed it was also gleaming. And with those words, she started rocking her head back and forth. Come on her mouth or come on her face? I'm not so sure. Let's come on her face. Cum spurted forth from my dick and stained Orihime's face the moment I pulled out of her mouth.
こんなにいっぱい。
すまない。大丈夫かい？
ええ、気持ちよかったのですね。
She lovingly licked my glands.
もちろん。でも、俺ばかりが気持ちよくなっていても仕方ない。
Stage 2? Stage 2?
おいで、織姫。
おいで、織姫。だだだ、バカ、バカが。Orihime stared at me in bewilderment while I beckoned her over to the bed and lowered her onto it. Her panties were soaked and warm.
先生、そんないじらないで。
興奮したのかい？ 恥ずかしがることはないよ。
I slowly and gently caressed her pussy.
ですが先生。
Orihime shrieked when I rubbed her clitoris. Orihime squirmed on the bed. Nectar gushed out of her and stained the sheets. I stuck my middle and index fingers into her pussy and stirred them around inside her.
Nandai? 行きそうなのかい？
Orihime squirted nectar in huge spurts as she shivered like she'd just fallen into an icy lake. She frantically covered her pussy with a flushed face.
大丈夫かい？
That took me by surprise, I had to admit.
申し訳ありません。こんな浅ましいところをお見せしてしまって。やはり嫌ですよね。
そんなことはないよ、織姫。
I wiped off the droplets that scattered from her pussy.
ほら。俺だってこんなに興奮している。
A moment later, I took her hand and brought it to my cock. Seeing her come so much, it made me harder than ever.
いいかい？
はい。私が上に。
She rolled over and straddled me, her voice faint like a dying breeze. Orihime balanced herself with one hand, her hips looming ever closer.
大丈夫かい？
はい。動いた方がよろしいですか？
無理はしなくてもいいよ。入っているだけでも気持ちよいからね。
そうですか。
The wrinkles on her forehead eased slightly. I hadn't been saying that just to be nice either. Her pussy was so tight that it felt like it was crushing my manhood. Said the same thing about Toko. Oh god. Orihime swung her hips and threw her weight into me from time to time.
動きたいのかい？
そんなことは。
A scarlet wave rushed over Orihime's face as she hung her head.
少しずつ動いてみようか。
I thrust my hips up a bit. Orihime jolted like she'd been struck by lightning. Her shapely breasts swung from side to side. She appeared to be enjoying it, if the fact that she was rocking her own body up and down was any indicator. I rubbed her nipples from below. Orihime and I swapped places before I straddled her and stuck my cock into her from behind. Yep, this entire screen is probably covered by a silly image from my computer right now, isn't it? Yep. Good times, good times. She moaned, her face driving into the bed. It felt different going in and out of her this time, since we changed angles and all. I placed my hands on her waist and started pumping away vigorously. Our hips composed a jaunty tune together. I cupped her breasts in my hands. Her hard nipples brushed against my palms. And so I quickly pinched and kneaded them while thrusting away. Orihime gripped the sheets and moaned.
Orihime!
I called her name as I stirred up her insides. I thrust swifter and swifter, pressing my hands against the bed. My nectar-soaked cock kept sliding in and out. Her pussy clenched around my cock like a vice, pushing me over the edge until I shot my load deep inside her. Orihime moaned, flopping onto the bed. I asked, stroking her head while still balls deep inside her. There was a blossom of a smile and a gleam of tears on Orihime's face. Orihime got dressed and stood up.
先生、ありがとうございます。
君は汚れちゃいないよ。
先生にそう言っていただけただけでも嬉しいです。
She glanced at the floor. The shards of the broken cup were strewn about.
危ないから下がるんだ。
I crouched down and started gathering the pieces. Unfortunately, the coffee had already seeped into the floorboards.
私は一体今まで何をしていたのでしょうか。
若いうちは何でもしておく方がいいよ。先は長いんだ。多少の失敗は後でいくらでも取り戻せる。
ですが、私の罪が償われることはありません。
そんなことは。
The remaining words got caught in my throat after I looked up. Orihime was pointing scissors at her throat. Oh, fuck.
やめるんだ。
Those 4 words were all I managed to say, since I knew my sudden actions could have very well backfired.
もう限界なのです。私はこの在庫に耐えることなどできません。
We banged her and then she just kills herself anyways. That's fucking great. The blade dug into her neck.
そんな刃物で死ぬことはできないよ。中途半端に体を傷つけた場合、下手をすれば後遺症が出てずっと苦しむ羽目になる。
それが贖罪となるならば構いません。
Yet Orihime's eyes wavered for a moment despite her claims. Now! I lunged at the scissors in one clean motion. Burning. Burning. My palm was burning. Orihime screamed.
大丈夫かい？
I clenched my trembling right fist.
私よりも先生の手が。
心配しなくても、この程度の傷はこれまでにいくらでも背負ってきたさ。
I hid my right hand behind my back so she couldn't see the scissor blades piercing through it. My heart was exploding in my palm over and over, but I couldn't pay it any heed.
手当てを。
Orihime hastily surveyed the room and raced for the medicine cabinet. Good thing we were in the infirmary. It seemed every cloud really did have a silver lining. Okay, so... like, we saved her, right? I mean, like, come on. Orihime frantically scoured the shelves. Well, at least it seemed I disabused her notion of killing herself. I heard the door behind me open. Oh, what? 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 The pair were tied up, loaded into the bed of a truck parked behind the school and covered in mats. No one had spotted those suspicious actions. All had gone according to plan. I have to hurry. After all, punishing her thoroughly had long been the ultimate goal. What? The roads were empty, yet in spite of that, the truck proceeded slowly and carefully. The fact that getting into an accident would ruin everything was part of it, but what mattered was not waking the involuntary passengers. How ironic that the post scene of the US military meant the main roads nearby were well serviced. A black and white squad car passed the truck. Looks like I'll have a long and arduous trip ahead of me. Okay, so this is Kusaka. But eventually the car safely parked at its destination, its unwilling quarry dragged inside. Though the man hadn't been part of the original plan, he'd sniffed out far too much for his own good. A body check was performed to confirm he was still alive. He breathed yet. Tiny bubbles surfaced from the blood trickling down his broken nose. Next, the girl was carried slowly inside. Leaving a scratch on her was not an option. Not when she was to be such a pivotal sacrifice anyway. What? I woke up. No, scratch that. Was I really awake? Everything was so dark that I couldn't see a thing. I realized my left eye was open, but I couldn't tell what was going on with the right one. Maybe it burst. If so, it was unfortunate that I'd already grown numb to the pain. My right hand had also stopped hurting. Someone didn't tend to me, did they? I racked my brain to recall what transpired right before I passed out. All of a sudden, a door behind me opened. I tried to turn around to look, but I felt my face bump into something. My lungs were starved for air, so I opened my mouth and took a deep breath. Holy fucking shit. Something fell out the moment I exhaled. I felt around my mouth with my tongue, only to realize I was missing several teeth. Well, shit. Getting dentures at my age is gonna suck ass. An endless flood of saliva spurted from my mouth, keeping me from closing it again. No, it was more likely blood, though my nose couldn't exactly tell considering the circumstances. It was broken after all. No wonder I'd have been having so much trouble breathing. I saw someone flickering with my working eye. It appeared to be dim candlelight. However, it was strong enough to illuminate my surroundings. The very first thing I spotted was a black leather school bag. Probably Orihime's if I had to guess. A black egg hung from it. At that exact moment, the Black Madonna passed me and ripped it off the bag. Oh shit, so we get to, oh my god, we have to see this like live now? The candlelight revealed Orihime's figure in the darkness. Her arms were bound, limbs crucified to the wall. It was almost like watching some modern-day perversion of the execution of Jesus. She wasn't even budging, though I couldn't tell if that was because she was dead or unconscious. The Black Madonna stood before her. Clutched in the hooded figure's grasp was a small blade, a scalpel. A red line was prominently drawn across Orihime's face, yet she didn't waken. The Black Madonna carved countless lacerations into her face, arms, chest, and abdomen. Orihime's white uniform was soon painted red. Stop. My mouth moved, but no voice escaped my throat. The blade danced once more, skating down her abdomen to her right leg. Finally stopping at her toes, the Black Madonna resumed mutilating her face next. The scalpel dug into her mouth. Orihime finally moaned after her cheek had been sliced from mouth to ear. The flesh of that cheek unfurled, exposing her molars. The concoction of blood and saliva bubbled up, mixing with the tears streaming down her face. The Black Madonna sliced open her other cheek, prompting blood to cascade onto her chest. Orihime shuddered like a leaf, her blood splashing to the floor with each shiver. The Black Madonna readied a syringe and injected something into her abdomen. Urihime's eyes widened. A transparent liquid dripped out and mixed with the puddles of blood. It seemed she'd voided herself. The Black Madonna brandished a hatchet from before lifting Orihime's left leg, the only part of her left unwounded. And with that, the crunching of flesh and bone vibrated through my skeleton. Even more spatters of blood decorated the floor. The Black Madonna carefully wiped the leg clean before wrapping it in a black cloth and gently placing it on the floor. I could see the cut surface. It was a nearly transparent blend of red and white. The Black Madonna swung the scalpel again. I heard the grotesque squelch of flesh being pierced from Orihime's abdomen was slowly opened. Shortly thereafter, the Black Madonna tore out an organ lathered in dusky blood. Was that her uterus? The Black Madonna rolled it around in their hand for a moment before violently casting it aside. The hot lump of flesh slapped against my face. It was the very same part I'd filled with my essence not too long ago. Or the slushy juices that dripped out my semen. Orihime. Suddenly my vision grew very dark. The Black Madonna stood right in front of me. My Grim Reaper held the hatchet in their right hand aloft, and for the briefest of moments I caught a glimpse of the Black Madonna's face. What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay. Well, I thought that we had saved her, but obviously not. Okay, so that must have been Kusaka, right? I mean, surely, who else would have been able to make their way into the school and specifically target us two, and then bring us back to Kusaka's house? We know that's Kusaka's house from that last ending we got. So that had to have been Kusaka. And I mean, I think at this point in the story, we hadn't even met Shin Katsuragi. So it had to have been Kusaka. Holy shit. So we literally had to sit there and watch that happen. And not only that, but then he takes out her uterus, which is probably filled with our semen, and then throws it at our face? I mean, good lord. Okay. Listen, I've been sitting here for 3 hours doing this shit. Okay? I don't even know what to say. So, oh man. I'm still hanging on to that hope. There has to be a way to save Orihime, right? Surely. There's no way that she's just bound to die when we've just witnessed that there is a way to get her to confess to us. But, oh man, fuck, dude. Wow. Huh. I mean, there's gotta be a way to save her. But that was interesting. That gave us a lot of information, specifically on the inner workings of Schisma. So we knew that she was the leader. We knew that there was prostitution and drug use involved. But it seemed like it was all pretty self-induced, like we had kind of gone over earlier. It still lines up with Kusaka, but again, I'm still pretty confident that Kusaka is not the only person involved here. Right? Like, I think it's very possible he's doing the butchering and the kidnapping, but I think there's somebody that's manipulating him behind the scenes still. I'm thinking about it like this. There's somebody manipulating him behind the scenes, and all of this is coming back to the book, The Egg of Nianus, right? But then it's like, if it is just Kusaka working alone, how did he get into that? How did he get onto that? This is a group that's supposedly only for that's supposedly made up of high school girls who are wanting to break away from their families and yada yada yada. Maybe it could be a customer. Yeah, and you know what I mean when I say customer, right? But I that's too much of a stretch in my opinion. I think that's kind of irrelevant. It has to be somebody that has had direct contact with one of these girls in this group, that knows them to some personal degree, and that has knowledge of the book. And the only person that has that all three of those things we know for a fact has is the writer, Shin Katsuragi. He wrote the book. He knows all about Dante's comedy, all about obviously the Egg of Nyanas that he wrote. He knew Yui Nishizono personally, to the point where he went with her to her when she got an abortion. We know that she was one of the first people to be a fan of his book. Hell, she might have even been the one to introduce that book to Orihime. He's the only one that fits that description perfectly to a T. Nene doesn't. None of those doctors at the institution do. But again, we know that Kusaka is involved in this objectively. But the thing is, we don't even run into Shin Katsuragi until after Orihime's dead. So it's like, if he is the mastermind behind all this, is there a way to stop him before Orihime dies? Is there a way to protect Orihime from him? Well, I think we're going to wrap it up on that. Like I said, I've been sitting here for a while now, just skimming through this, I reloaded the game probably 5 times, just picking any array of questions and options that I could think of. So I'm going to cut it off here. I will be back to this. Probably sometime very soon. I might honestly, I'll be back to this very, very soon. This clearly was a bad end, obviously, right? But I think we're on the right track. I think if we continue following, I think if we just backtrack from where we're at now, I think we're going to eventually find a path that brings us forward, but also doesn't negate all the work that we've done. That doesn't just bring us back to the ending where Yukari gets taken, Shugo's wife gets killed, yada yada yada. So, wow. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video and tell me in the comment section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of these videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.